Hey guys, and welcome to my video on how to study for a history exam. So I'm taking my history GCSE in June, and these are the tips that have helped me the most and that I find the most useful for when I'm revising history. So as always, these might vary depending on your exam board and what course you're studying. Personally, I'm on the NXL IGCSE history course, but I'm going to try and make these tips quite general so they can be applied whatever exam board you're doing and whatever courses and stuff you're studying for. If you find this video helpful at all, please feel free to like and subscribe. But anyway, let's get going. So my first tip is to structure your notes and your revision to fit the exam style. So often with history, it does feel like there's so much overwhelming content, there's just so much stuff. But ultimately, it's a GCSE exam, and so every question follows a set formula. So if you can distill the content of the course to fit into that formula, then you'll find that your notes and your revision are just so much more efficient. So for example, in my Russia course, the paper is mainly source-based, but there's one final C question which is an essay on the key factors of an event. So the way I revise is I take all the key events in the Russia course and I write down 3 or 4 key factors for those events, and I write down all the relevant facts, all the relevant information, all the relevant dates, all that. And then what I do in my revision is I make spider diagrams that are really small to try and condense that information as much as I can and just get down to the key information. And that means that all my revision and all my notes for the Russia course are focused around that C essay question. And similarly for my Germany and my Cold War course, all the questions are based around causes and impacts of events. And so for all my revision, all my notes, I'll go through for each key event and just write down the causes and the events, and that makes sure that everything I'm studying and everything I'm revising is completely focused on the exam and the structure, so I'm not wasting any time and I'm getting right to the heart of the content. Okay, so my next few tips are to do with learning dates and facts specifically, because learning dates and facts are really annoying, but there's a big part of history, you just have to learn them. So for facts specifically, what I tend to do is make Quizlet flashcards for all different facts. And so on one side it says how many miles was the Long March? And on the other side it just says 4,000 miles. It's really basic. And then Quizlet has loads of different modes to learn the different facts. So there's a learn mode, a gravity mode, game thing, there's match, you have to match the size of the flashcards, there's a test mode, so there's loads of different ways you can learn the flashcards and test yourself, and that's mainly how I learn facts, just through Quizlet. But one thing to remember is to prioritize your facts, because in the textbook there's just so many different facts, and it's just so overwhelming to try and learn them all. I mean, you could, if you had all the time in the world and you really wanted to learn every fact, you could, but often you just need to prioritize different facts that you can learn, and one important way to prioritize them is just prioritize the facts that you can use in the most essays. So one way I find that is when I make essay plans, I write down what facts I would use and I would make a note of them, and those are the facts I would prioritize to learn, because if you can learn a few key facts that can cover loads of different essays, then that's really, really useful. Again, if you want to learn every fact, you could, but I just think that's a bit overwhelming, and so prioritizing facts is really important. And then for learning dates, there's actually loads of different ways you can learn dates. So again, you could use Quizlet, I sometimes use that, but one good thing I like to do is I like to make flashcards for the dates, and obviously I can just test myself by on one side it says the date, the other side it says the event, and you have to match them up. But one other good thing you can do is test yourself chronologically, so you can have all the different events laid out on the table on the flashcards, and you just line them up chronologically, and then when you've done, you can turn all the flashcards over so it reveals the dates and you can see whether you've got it right chronologically. Again, that's focused specifically on my exam, because question A in my Germany and Cold War paper is a chronology question. We had to put 5 events in order. So again, that's just another way to focus it specifically onto the exam structure. Another thing I sometimes like to do is I make a blank timeline with all the dates on, and I have to go in and I have to write down all the events. Again, that's testing myself chronologically, and it's making kind of the links between the dates and the actual events. So again, it's just building those links and helping me learn stuff. Okay, so the next few tips are about essays, and whether you like it or not, if you want to do well in history, you're going to have to practice writing a lot of essays. So the first tip is to obviously just know the structure of the essays that are expected of you, because GCSE essays, whether they're history, English literature, whatever essay it is, they all follow set formulae. And so you need to not only make sure that you know those formulae, like going into the exam, like you know what you have to write, but also that your revision is kind of focused on meeting those targets and like hitting those formulae. So obviously in an ideal world, like before you go into an exam, you'd write out full essays for like every single possible question, every single topic. But unfortunately, that's not really possible. So one thing I like to do is at least like to make sure I make essay plans for like every single question and every single topic, just so I feel a bit more prepared. So I'm really lucky in that my teacher has produced like booklets for every single like topic with every single question we literally could be asked in. So what I do is I go through and I make essay plans on those. But you know, if you don't have that booklet, what you could always do is just, you know, find the questions on the past papers, whatever. You know, it's really simple. So what I do is I go in and I either make mind maps for the essay plans, or I just write out like the essay plans in note form, just for every single question, just to make sure like I've covered everything. And you could either do that like from your notes to solidify them, or you can do it from memory to, you know, test yourself. So there's loads of different ways you can use essay plans to really help you. And as I said, if I write an essay plan for at least like every question before I go to the exam, then you just feel a bit prepared, and it's a really good way of revising. And then a bit closer to the exam, obviously, I just practice writing essays for, you know, a few of those questions, just as many as I can, just again to practice not only recalling knowledge under like time conditions, but also, you know, hitting the required targets under time condition, you know, hitting the structure of the question and of the essay under time conditions, because sometimes that can be really stressful. And then obviously when I've tested myself and I've written down an essay under time conditions, I can check it against my essay plan and I can check it against my notes, and it really highlights any flaws in my knowledge and any things I need to go over. So like practicing writing essays is so useful for so many reasons. And then of course past papers. So past papers are obviously like incredibly useful for any subject, but particularly for history I find them useful because you not only have to answer like individual questions under time conditions, but you have to like complete like a range of different questions under quite harsh time conditions. So testing yourself and seeing if you can meet those time conditions and keep practicing so that you can get better and better is really important. And also like it's important to like know if you need 5 minutes longer on question B than question C, then you need to know that before you go into the exam. But that can really only come from doing like practice and past papers and stuff. But one thing I wouldn't really recommend doing is doing loads of past papers like early on in your revision, because I know for things like sciences people tend to like to do past papers early in their revision, then they can kind of like learn from the mark scheme or whatever. But with history that doesn't really work because it's more essay based. So I'd say like focus on doing past papers like at the end of your revision just to test your knowledge, rather than doing it at the start with like science and stuff, because like I just think it's better for all the reasons I've mentioned before. Alright, so those are my tips for how to revise history GCSE. I hope this video was any help at all. If it was, then please feel free to, you know, like, subscribe, share this video with a friend or a history classmate or whatever. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, queries, anything, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.